All right, let's do a quick intro and then we can get started. So I'll start. I'm familiar Cal with Nine Realms. I do communications and narrative work for Nine Realms, including Twitter Spaces and whatnot.
Hey everyone, I'm Eridanus. I'm protocol engineer with Nine Realms, working on THORChain, also trying to help out with DEX integrations into THORChain.
Very nice to meet you guys. I'm Saskia, the CEO of Rango Exchange, which I'm here to answer all the questions that can help everyone understand or get familiar with the multi-chain ecosystem, especially about THORChain and how aggregation or interfaces on top of THORChain may work, and can help the DeFi users understand the cross-chain.
Awesome. So Rango, I'd love to hear a little bit more about Rango Exchange because, personally, I didn't hear about it until THORChain was implemented as an aggregator on your guys' systems. So would you be able to tell us a little bit about what Rango Exchange is and what kind of features it offers for its users?
Sure. To be honest, the initial idea behind Rango was about THORChain. I mean, the THORChain is the core of Rango's initial version. Back then, like 8 months ago when we started, THORChain was a great product back then, and it supported lots of great blockchains. But what we believe that is lacking in THORChain is that you cannot access lots of tokens. You don't have yet access to lots of blockchains such as BSC, Terra. Back then, the Terra was not supported. Also, the Cosmos or Solana ecosystem, all of them were unreachable by THORChain. So we decided to somehow expand the THORChain capabilities into new blockchains. The initial version of Rango supported like THORChain and 1inch and TerraBridge. So users could easily sign multiple transactions using THORChain combined with like Binance Bridge and TerraBridge to bridge the token from like native Bitcoin to native Luna. That was the initial idea. And we started with like 5 or 6 different blockchains back then, and we integrated like 5 or 6 services. And during this time, we expanded our service to lots of new areas. For example, right now, we support more than 30 different blockchains. And by our next update, which will be available like in 2 weeks, we will support 43 different blockchains. And we have integrated like 25 different services, including THORChain. And we support like 7 or 8 different wallets, which are a lot more. Most of them are multi-chain, such as XDeFi or Kepler or TrustStation. And that's the current status of Rango. The general idea is to make it much easier for DeFi users to do cross-chain swapping. But in the heart of the system, it's THORChain, but we have added lots of other services which can be chained with THORChain to make a more complex swap possible. For the numbers, we have recently reached $1.6 billion of transaction volume, and most of it is in like last 4 months. And we like to reach like $10 billion very soon in this or next quarter. That's our target for now. And the general idea is to make it possible for all the users to find the best route, the lowest fee, the easiest way to swap something from any chain to any other chain. It doesn't matter where you are or where you like to go. That's generally a short intro of how Rango does this thing, what Rango is.
So when was Rango founded? Did it always support THORChain as an exchange, as an aggregator for your DEX aggregator?
Sorry, would you repeat?
Sorry. When was Rango founded, and has it always supported THORChain, or did it start off as a DEX aggregator, and then you guys learned about THORChain and then implemented it afterwards, or was it always made with THORChain in mind, with native cross-chain swaps, including UTXO chains, Bitcoin, for example?
Understood. Sorry. As I mentioned, the THORChain was the first thing that was integrated into the Rango. As I said, it wasn't about the first thing that came to our mind was not to build something like what it is today. It was just to expand THORChain. So we started with THORChain and added like something like 1inch to it to make make it possible for users to swap, for example, native Bitcoin to anything in Ethereum using a THORChain transaction and a 1inch one. But later, as we got positive feedbacks about how amazing this stuff works, and how it's much easier compared to like switching between two different UIs. We try to make it possible to do something much more like complex. For example, later we added TerraBridge, we added Osmosis, and then users could like sign 5 or 6 transactions and change like Bitcoin to something in Ethereum, bridge it to like Terra, and IBC to Osmosis, and then, for example, IBC to something like Akash. So in general, the initial idea was just to expand THORChain, and later we expanded much further to make it possible to chain lots of different services, including THORChain. But in general, we like to the THORChain part because it's decentralized and non-custodial, and service is in next level compared to lots of bridges. So our main mission still is to support THORChain as far as we can. For example, THORChain brought up Terra integration recently, so we're track to reduce the number of that should be signed by users. In general, THORChain is still a crucial part of our system, but it's possible for users to go through paths that not necessarily goes through THORChain.
Yeah, that was going to be some of my questions right there. Just why use THORChain other than rather than another aggregator? Like there aren't really a lot of solutions out there right now for bridging, especially when you're talking about Bitcoin, Litecoin, Doge. Those are all supported on Rango now. Like why use THORChain for those additions of tokens? Are there even other solutions out there? And why do you think that THORChain brings the best solution to the market, to the people who are actually trying to make swaps using Bitcoin?
Sure, THORChain has some like unique characteristics, I believe. As I mentioned, for example, you can easily swap a native asset with a single transaction to another native asset. That's something that you cannot find easily in the market. If there are other solutions, normally they are not decentralized enough, they are not non-custodial, they lack something, and that's the reason that THORChain is an ideal solution. Of course, we may integrate lots of them in the future, but still, I believe THORChain has something that's special in that area, which is interesting for us as well. So that's the reason that we started with THORChain, and we're still sticking to THORChain. And we believe even if THORChain's liquidity gets deeper and deeper over time, even maybe it's not needed for other solutions to be integrated. But in general, it's as we are an aggregator, we may integrate some of them and give the option to the users to use them via our own interface. But generally, THORChain is something that currently it's fully enough for us. For example, for a user, if you like to go from Bitcoin to anywhere else, but what THORChain lacks right now, I believe, is the support of some popular blockchains, such as, for example, BSC is not supported. And there is something like RenBridge. If I'm not wrong, they can bridge the Bitcoin to RenBTC on BSC, and they can easily then swap it with Vanish to something else. That's, by user experience, it's much easier, but I believe that THORChain will expand its support to these sort of blockchains as well. So if that happens, again, THORChain is much better and enough. But if it's not, we may integrate those solutions as well to make it easier for users for some specific queries that THORChain doesn't support directly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, that's your guys' job as a DEX aggregator, to bring in the best solutions for getting the best prices for the swaps that users are trying to do, and also making sure users get their funds quickly and also in the most secure way. And obviously, self-custodial wallets is probably the biggest thing when it comes to cross-chain dexes. That's really what gives users the ability to maintain custody over their own funds. So I think it's really important that you guys are out here, especially using THORChain technology, but just as a multi-chain exchange, being able to take control of your own funds is extremely important. So you guys are doing great work on that front.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, go on. Sorry, I said.
Yeah, I know. Just thank you guys. So how do you see the DEX market evolving? Do you think that DEXs will move more towards multi-chain in the future, or do you think that the future of current, major dexes like Uniswap, for example, do you think they're always going to be single chain, or do you think that the future is like, I mean, not to be corny or anything, but do you think the future is multi-chain, or where do you see the DEX market going?
Sure, it's a good question, to be honest. In general, one of my personal initiatives to start Rango was that the DeFi is a hard thing, to be honest. When you use like Binance or KuCoin or other stuff, it's much easier and more familiar for users. And DeFi in general, even not cross-chain, it is super hard. You should learn how to keep your secret, install a wallet, connect it, and do it in a non-custodial manner. That's something that, for example, there are not lots of maybe educational material yet, or not of high quality in the market. So the DeFi users in general are much smaller community compared to the non-DeFi ones. And multi-chain is much harder. It's a factor of 10 harder because there are like some breaches, and many of them are not that much decentralized or trustable. There are like wrapped assets that should be taken care of by security-wise. And these are, I believe, the main obstacles for the mass adoption. So aside from the future that I personally believe that is multi-chain for sure, currently even in the on-chain world, it's not that much easy to live with Uniswap for every user. There are fee problems, the gas price is high, there are like, when you like to go from a chain to another, you should provide some fees and find how I should get BNB from somewhere else. I should get like Rovan or Osmo from anywhere. These are the problems that is stop for the mass adoption. So I believe, first of all, what will change or evolve in the DeFi ecosystem is the user experience. The user experience, THORChain itself is a good example of how this thing is happening. You can easily swap it to a native asset on another blockchain. So you don't need to care about any of this stuff. You don't need any fee on the destination chain. You don't need, for example, do multiple steps. And that's an example of how DeFi can evolve. Other than that, there are like lots of bridges, messaging protocols, cross-chain DEXs, and which it's misleading for user if they want to go from A to B. There are lots of options, for example. So like aggregators such as Rango are another thing that can be helpful. Users may not need to think about all the options, may not need to care about the fee stuff or all the problems and obstacles that exist for a complex cross-chain swap. These are a sample of how this ecosystem, the market is evolving. Another example about, as you mentioned, about Uniswap, I believe, for example, on SushiSwap case, they are going to have some sort of collaboration with something like Stargate or Layer Zero. I'm not sure which one of them makes sense in that case. To have some sort of cross-chain DEX, because the Uniswap is deployed like in 20 different blockchains, but they are fully disconnected. So they are thinking of doing some sort of messaging between these protocols. That's another thing that can be very helpful in the future. I'm not sure if like when it happens, but I believe this sort of upgrades to the DeFi interface, to the DeFi user experience, is crucial for it to survive, and it's happening in many different products I see recently. And I believe that it will be using the DeFi ecosystem is like 10x easier in 2 years, to be honest.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to change in the next 2 years that's going to make the experience that much easier? Do you think it's just user experience getting better as exchanges are evolving, just having better UI and pointing people in the right direction? Or do you think that's more through education? I don't know whether Rango is doing any, types of education marketing to bring people into the DeFi space, but I'm curious, what signs to you point towards the user experience getting better over the next 2 years? And I guess also, how do you think the user experience will evolve over the next 2 years?
There are different aspects for the educational stuff. As users get more users are got on board into the cross-chain ecosystem, there will be more contents on YouTube, everywhere else, and also products like THORChain or the ecosystem of THORChain create some educational stuff, also we are thinking of having a website, something like a blog for generating educational stuff for people. That's one thing. The other thing is about the technology itself. For example, IBC, it's a great technology for making interoperability. It's hard to pronounce. Sorry.
Sorry, what is that? Is it a library?
The IBC is something that makes it possible for like cross-chain in Cosmos. There are some efforts like EVMOS, which I don't know, maybe in future they can become a bridge between like Ethereum ecosystem, or there are lots of normal bridges that make it easier for users. So over time, technology itself is helpful. It's not just about the user experience, pure user experience. Other than that, the user experience itself is another factor. So in general, educational stuff, technology, and the user experience practices over time will make it much easier for users. I believe these three factors are the most important ones.
So how do you think that DEX could compete with a centralized exchange going forward? Because really, I think you've said a couple of times that that's really where a bulk of the users who are into crypto are. But that's something that we might not see forever. So what kind of user experience changes need to happen to actually gain that popular adoption and to reach the masses with cross-chain DeFi being at the center of that? Where do you think is lacking right now that really needs improvement?
Sure. As a point of view of a very amateur user, if you look at the problem, then there are some obstacles. For example, I should provide fees. I should have multiple wallets. I should install Kepler. I should install THORChain or Leap Wallet. I should install like MetaMask. And that's another problem. And also, I should sign multiple transactions. If one of them fails, what should I do? Where the money is gone? How long should it take, for example, for Seabridge to give me the final token? These are the very basic problems that many of us in this meeting may not sense it very much, because we have been in the DeFi ecosystem for a long time. These concepts are very easy for us to handle, but for a normal user, it's very much misleading and problematic. So these problems over time get better and better, because as I mentioned, for example, before that, when I like to go from native Bitcoin to Terra, I needed to do like use four different interfaces, or three different interfaces at least. But with THORChain's new integration, it's just a single transaction. That's a very simple example of how much easier it can become with using the technology itself. And for the wallets, as another example, wallets, I believe, are in the core of this movement, because, for example, XDeFi for now can be a single wallet that you can use instead of MetaMask, instead of like Bitcoin wallets, or like THORChain. All of them are integrated into a single wallet. So if I install XDeFi, I have access to all of them. And some stuff like locking my money in Anchor is easily possible in XDeFi. So that's another thing that may be useful. There are some sort of services in the market. It's earning, lending, saving, etc., swapping as well. That can happen inside a wallet. That's a crucial thing, I believe. For example, one of our major goals in Rango is to provide a very intuitive and easy API for all the cross-chain wallets to integrate swapping functionality into their own wallets. So, but the thing about wallet is that they can sign it on behalf of the user. So even if it's too hard to like sign 5 transactions for a user, wallet can do it with just a simple permission. So that's something that again makes it very much easier. So to wrap it up, I believe wallets are very important for the user experience side. Also services such as THORChain, such as IBC and other stuff make it again much easier for the users. Also on the bridge side, there are some problems. I don't know how they can improve it, but bridging is a bit hard experience-wise, because there are many times, at least we have experienced it, that, for example, multi-chain or Seabridge could slow down, not enough money or liquidity on the destination blockchains to pay to users, so users should somehow refund it or wait for the liquidity to come back. And this is stuff make it really hard or confusing. And for a very amateur user, it's very stressful, because they don't know what's happening or where the money is gone. But in a experience in a centralized exchange is very much different. You always see what's happening. That's the difference. And as I said, I believe a part of it is solved by learning more and more. And another part is but just becoming easier by aggregators, by cross-chain indexes, and other technologies. Also, messaging is another crucial thing that can happen to the ecosystem, such as Stargate.
Staying on wallets for a second, I'm looking at all the supported wallets on Rango right now. You guys have MetaMask, XDeFi wallet, Kepler, Terra Station, Binance Chain wallet, Harmony One, and Leap wallet. Is there any is there any wallets that you really like personally, just from ease of use and standpoint, and just the wallet experience that you enjoy? Is there any of these particular wallets that stand out to you?
Sure. I cannot say that there is a single wallet that solves everything right now, to be honest, but I believe that there should be one and there will be one. XDeFi is somehow closer to this ideal situation, but there are still some glitches, there are some bugs from time to time, but in general I use them. It's okay for me, but I believe it's still hard for the normal users. Some part of it is because the bugs or changes that happens. There were like sometimes in Rango that XDeFi stopped working, and as we checked, there were some breaking changes in the API, so the site couldn't connect anymore to the wallet. So in general, XDeFi's idea is very good and the implementation is good enough, but I believe there is still a lot of room to improvement on that. Other than that, if you bind yourself to a specific ecosystem, for example, to Ethereum, still MetaMask works, but again, you cannot see that much of cross-chain thing on the MetaMask. You should change the network. There are like some sort of isolated blockchains. But on the other side, for example, Kepler is much better by experience. That you can a combination of Kepler and Osmosis or Kepler and SwiftChain is very much better experience. You feel that the wallet is something cross-chain because there is a DEX that can easily connect these chains together in a very fast and efficient manner.
I'm right there with you on XDeFi. Like, I think it solves a lot of the multi-chain wallet problem where you always hit the spot between wallets, but at the same time there is little things sometimes that, like, even as an experienced user, it just kind of trips you up a little bit, and it doesn't always work in the way that you think it might. So multi-chain products are very difficult to ship out there just because of the sheer complexity of it all, as obviously you guys know, as anyone that's involved with THORChain knows. But the wallet selection is very interesting, and consolidating into one seems to be the way that everything's going with DEXs, with wallets. The multi-chain future is just consolidation of multi-chain of all, a lot of different chain wallets and DEXs into one thing, like Rango is doing. So when you guys implemented THORChain, was there any what was your guys' experience implementing THORChain? Was that was it difficult? Was there any extreme problems that were posed to you guys in doing that? What was the ease in implementing THORChain into Rango?
Sure. I can assess the integration as something not very easy, but not very hard. It's something like medium, because there are lots of different blockchains. There is EVM blockchain, which is quite different from something like Bitcoin. So you should know some more concepts compared to something like Cbridge or AnySwap, because they're only on Ethereum. You should know how Ethereum works and how to integrate them easily. But THORChain's case, I believe the balance between how powerful it is and how many different blockchains it brings to you versus how hard it's to integrate is quite appealing to me, to be honest, because it's not very much hard, but still maybe some documentations could be improved. At least when we were integrating that, we mostly did some sort of reverse engineering to find out how it works. But in general, the integration was super easy, to be honest. That's a reason that we see the integration in lots of other products in the market, like SourceSwap or XDeFi as well. So I believe it's fully okay for everyone to easily integrate THORChain. And one thing about Rango itself, I believe when as a product, when you are a DApp or a wallet that you like to integrate a cross-chain swap, it's still hard. If you have already implemented THORChain, then you should, for any reason, switch to something else, or you like to add another service. You should learn, do all the stuff that's needed. And that's another initiative for us, for the Rango exchange, because from the very beginning, we thought and we designed an API that hides this complexity from the developers that like to integrate cross-chain swaps into the ecosystem. For example, if you right now integrate Rango's API into your dApps, and you can easily just turn on the THORChain as the only source for the in Rango's API. And if you like to switch to anything else or add other services, it's just passing a parameter. Everything else is for the integration is the same, and everything works very easily. So I believe Rango is not somehow that much bad, or it's much easier compared to how many different blockchains you can integrate with just a few lines of code. That's one area that I think maybe it can help for our experience for THORChain as well. But in general, THORChain itself is much easy to integrate as well.
Yeah, Eridanus, who's on the speaker panel right now, he does a lot of the he talks a lot of aggregators, and it does a lot of the work behind the scenes with aggregation. So I don't know if you wanted to comment on that at all.
Yeah, I mean, improving documentation is something that we're actively working on, and as Rango is kind of mentioning, it's when you're dealing with multi-chain, you're dealing with EVM, you're dealing with UTXO chains, you're dealing with Cosmos-based chains that all have different wallet patterns, different gas patterns. Transactions take different amount of time, so it's really about surfacing that to the user appropriately, and trying to abstract that away as much as possible, I think, is the challenge there. It's ideally the experience would be the same no matter what chain you're on, and that's kind of I think what you're alluding to is kind of abstracting away a lot of these experiences, and so that's what we're trying to build out Exchange.js, which is a cross-chain JavaScript library, and hoping to abstract away a lot of those experiences as well. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, that's what we're seeing as a challenge. And when we're talking to these DEXs, I think a lot of times they're hesitant to integrate THORChain, especially if they're only EVM based, because they don't support UTXO wallet flows. They don't support those experiences yet, and it feels like a massive burden to them to move into this multi-chain space, because they're having to build out those wallet connect flows, and they have to kind of deal with those different experiences and show them to the user. So I guess one question I would have is what advice would you give to a single chain DEX right now that is looking to move more to the multi-chain world?
To be honest, it's a tough question. I believe one thing, if I'm a DApp developer or I have a product that I like to choose THORChain, one main problem for me is that normally products are in this way. They live in an ecosystem. For example, they are living in an EVM ecosystem, or they live in Cosmos ecosystem or Terra ecosystem. So in any cases, for example, the Ethereum case, it's not, if you're talking about cross-chain, they normally don't like to, or they're not interested in moving assets between Ethereum and Bitcoin. They're interested in moving assets between Bitcoin, BSC, Polygon, AVAX, etc. So one problem I believe is that THORChain doesn't support these networks still. So by maybe when you like to approach a DApp, they are not you should know that what ecosystem they are in. If they are in Ethereum, you should just propose them to implement the Ethereum side of THORChain. And by expanding your accessibility to more Ethereum-based blockchains, you can easily attract them. That's one thing I believe. For the Terra ecosystem, that's the same. For example, people, when these products are in Terra, they normally like to stay in Terra. The features that they need is very Terra-ish. So again, THORChain may lack something in that. So I believe one downside is that the sort of blockchains that you have chosen for now is not maybe appropriate or ideal for every use case. But I believe when you add IBC, add more blockchains, that's fully resolved.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the Atom integration underway, and we have AVAX integration underway as well, and hopefully that will kind of make it a little bit more attractive for these dexes to integrate in that way. Another question I had is, so since, crypto and these liquidity pools and THORChain, these are all open services that anyone can access. Anyone can swap on Uniswap. Anyone can swap on THORChain. And it seems like Rango is kind of the first DEX aggregator that has such a wide expanse of liquidity pools available. And I think your exchange probably has the most routes available than any I've seen. I'm wondering, since everything is open, we have to imagine that more of these DEXs are going to kind of catch up to you and provide these routes to their users as multi-chain becomes more prevalent. What is, like, in your opinion, the way that exchanges can kind of keep your edge as since these liquidity pools are going to be available to anyone, maybe 10 or 12 DEXs will have the same routes as you. What is a way that exchanges can kind of keep their edge and keep their user base and keep the volume?
What I personally think of Rango is something like Vantage. For example, if you're talking about THORChain, I assume that you are something like Uniswap, but in a cross-chain world. And when I'm thinking about Rango, I'm the Vantage one. So we are some sort of like different products, and there will be lots of new Vantages or new THORChains. But what keeps the edge for ourselves is that we can be the best Vantage. We have the widest and the broadest number of integrations, the most number of integrated blockchains, and also the quality of service, the first market mover, something like that. For both of us are the advantages that we have. That's the same for THORChain. You are implementing a very complex technology that's not something that's easily done by other teams or products right now. And when you reach the market with the mainnet and you have the initial traction, so after that, there will be lots of copies, but normally the original service, if it's good enough, it will remain the dominant one as well. That's how I see it. And other than that, for I personally, one of the gross ideas that I think of on Rango is like integrating into the other DApps. For example, if any DApp or wallet likes to integrate any services, any DEXs, any bridges, any cross-chain DEXs, they can use it or integrate it via Rango, because Rango provides lots of flexibilities over this integration, direct integration, such as, for example, we are developing some sort of smart contracts in EVM, so you can get fees or affiliate services or other stuff over all the Ethereum-based services, which the native services may not provide to you. And other than that, when you integrate something via Rango, you can easily switch them off or on, switch to another service, use the ones that you like. That's the sort of stuff that makes Rango in long term appealing for people to use as the primary choice of integrating a cross-chain solution. That's how I see it. And also, I see cool. the similar ideas on THORChain as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First mover advantage is huge in crypto. So you mentioned the routing API you had, which I think you can turn on and off different routes or different services, and it'll basically return like the route between two different assets, and it could maybe go through 3 or 4 different services or just one. Is that something that you are going to like make public or put behind a paywall, or is that kind of just proprietary and private for your team at this point?
Well, to be honest, for now, it's private. As I said, again, when I think about Rango, I think about Vantage. We are the same. There is a closed source routing API.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Yeah, familiar account. I think that's all the questions I have right now.
So I think we're getting rugged by Twitter a little bit.
Oh, sorry about that.
People up on stage, people that are not on stage can hear us okay. All right, well, let's just move on to the next question here. Let's see how things go. All right. So Rango, are there any metrics that you guys track? Like, what kind of trends have you been seeing on Rango Exchange lately? Like, do you keep track of certain pair? Okay, Chad just said he could hear. Okay, so okay, I guess things are fine. So, yeah, is there any certain like pair like trade volumes that you keep track of? Yeah, what kind of data do you look at when you think of Rango Dex data?
Sure, there are tons of parameters or measurements. Many of them are like technical, many of them are like social. The easiest one to track is the volume or number of trades that is happening on Rango daily or monthly or over time. And it indicates how users are engaged into the platform itself. But these numbers are normally tricky because you sometimes launch a new feature or have a competition or other stuff, which makes the number very high. For example, our all-time high for a daily volume is something around $100 million. But it happened because we had a competition. It's not an indicator of how the overall system works. But other than that, we have some other soft metrics. For example, there are some UX feedbacks from users. There are a ratio of failed swaps or successful swaps. For example, there are tons of very long swaps, like 5 or 6 steps in the Rango. So we track how many of them, in how many cases users achieve the final goal, or in which steps they are normally failing. Or it's harder. For example, sometimes some bugs happens, a breach in Ethereum for any reason can be slowed down or be down for a few hours, or during some cases, for example, Terra Bridge was down a few days ago for like more than 24 hours or something like that. So these are other parameters that we normally try to track and find out about these services. So to disable them or giving some hints to users or other stuff. Also, on future, we like to have the number of DApps that integrate us as a parameter, as a KPI for ourselves, to how attractive the API or how easy it is to integrate. And other than that, there are social media engagements. It's not very much maybe very relevant or direct to your question, but it's still a sign of how we are doing or how we are nailing the problem. How if users are happy, they say, okay, I use it every day. There is no other solutions like that. Or if something is bad, you see feedback like, okay, my money got stuck, or even in some cases they say the money is stolen or something like that, because just the breach is not giving them money very quickly. And these are tons of both like quantitative and qualitative parameters that we check every day.
And where do you see? So, where do you think Rango can go in the future? What improvements do you think that you'd like to make and see with Rango? And I guess even just like generally in the whole cross-chain space, where do you see this going, and where do you want to take Rango?
We have recently revamped the roadmap, as we have previously. We were going to add lots of new blockchains such as Polkadot in this quarter, but we delayed them somehow because we believe that despite the fact that we are one of, to be honest, best user experience right now for this cross-chain swapping and especially chaining different services, but still there are lots of areas that can be improved. For example, we are right now, instead of adding new blockchains, we are working on some sort of smart contracts which can aggregate 2 steps into a single one. We will very like to use THORChain's aggregator contract, Silverage aggregator contract, and also Multichain is working on something similar. So we like to integrate all of them, so as 3-step swap can easily be compacted into a single signing, and everything works. After that, that's a huge improvement, I believe, to the platform itself, to the user experience. Other than that, there are different scenarios when you integrate, for example, THORChain. There are some problems sometimes. For example, THORChain's Ethereum is down, so you should get the feedback as fast as possible and disable the route. The same case happens for all the other services. And if you integrate like 30 different services, you have something every day. So we have developed lots of codes to find out, for example, if any swap has failed somehow, despite the fact that the API is giving us success. So we show some automatic contents to the users to how to reclaim their money or other stuff. So in general, I can say that we are working on aggregator contracts. We are working both our own aggregators and the aggregators of THORChain and SeaBridge. And also we are working on better diagnosis for the users, maybe even in many cases better prediction for if a bridge is going to fail or there is a high chance of failure by checking the liquidity, the queue of requests that are there or other stuff that can be helpful. Or there are some pages somewhere in Osmosis that shows the IBC traffic. So again, that's another thing. In some cases, we can, instead of sending user through the IBC channel, and the money gets stuck for 3 hours, that's not the desirable behavior. Instead, we can just disable the route and say that right now it's crowded, so better to wait for it to cool down. These are the stuff that we are currently working. All of them are somehow the UX improvements, but all of them are technical more than UI or other stuff. And that's in the short terms. And for the long term, as I mentioned, we like to provide a very clean and easy to use API for everyone that likes to integrate anything into their system. They can do it via Rango, very much easier and more flexible.
Cool. I'd like to get some people up here to ask questions. I'm sure a lot of people have questions for Rango Exchange, so I'll be accepting some requests to come up on stage. So if anyone wants to hit the button in the bottom left to come up here and ask some questions, I'll just ask one more while people hit the button to come up. So yeah, my question is about the monetization of Rango. Do you guys how does Rango function as a business? Is it through affiliate fees, through the trades? Is it like your own fees that you put on with the aggregator? I'm just curious about Rango's model, because I think I saw that you guys were doing an IDO soon. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about that at all.
Sure. The monetization is mostly from the fees and the affiliate, as you mentioned. And as I mentioned, again, there are lots of services that do not support it. So we are developing our own smart contracts to make it possible for every service to be charged. And other than that, currently the service is mostly free. We only charge fees for the users that are invited to Rango by another affiliator user. So we share some sort of fees together between the platform and those influencers or users that invite their friends or families. But later in future, we will enable this feature, the affiliation feature, on all the different services. Firstly, it's for our own DApp or an UI, but other than that, it's a problem or a requirement by other DApps that like to have cross-chain functionality into their services. They cannot charge fees as well. So if they use Rango, they can use the same mechanism to charge fees, and we will also get some shares from them as the source of revenue. Other than that, we are working on some amazing stuff. For example, we are working on a Terra aggregator similar to 1inch on Ethereum. We are developing an aggregator smart contract very much similar to 1inch in Terra. So for very big, huge swaps on Astroport or Terra swap, there will be arbitrage opportunity. We like to get it via our own smart contract and share the revenue again, platform and the user that did the swap. So it makes more sense for the users, instead of using Astroport or Trust directly, use Rango, use them via Rango and get the arbitrage for himself or herself. That's another thing that I believe is a huge thing that can bring a very good revenue. There are single transactions that maybe create $4,000 or $5,000 of arbitrage, which is a very great number. Other than a UI that users can swap, we like the infrastructure service. We have our own UI, but that's somewhere that users can build the best implementation of Rango's API. But mostly we like to be an infrastructure services for other blockchain, for other services, for other dApps or wallets. And we expect to have a much more traffic from those sources compared to our own UI. So those are the sources of the fees and affiliates that come to the platform. And for the IDO, as you mentioned, we will have the IDO in early May. The details will be announced in a few days. And the tokenomics is already available on our website, but we will add more descriptions, more details for how the token works and how the tokenomics stuff are. In general, you can use the token for governance, for getting fee discounts on the platform itself, and also there will be some buyback and burn mechanism later. So most of the earned fees and affiliation will be used for burning the token itself to increase the value and make it more appealing for users to keep the token for the long term.
Sweet, thank you. Does anyone want to come up and ask questions for Rango Exchange? Sorry, I didn't get any requests in the meantime.
I didn't understand.
Sorry, I'm just waiting to see if anyone would like to come up and ask some questions. Chad Barraford is coming up.
Not sure.
Hey, Chad. Hey, Chad, you there?
Hey, how's it going? Okay, so I got my question.
Hey.
I got my question for you. With the DEX aggregation feature that the core team is working on to make it easier to integrate THORChain into other DEXs, does that change Rango at all? Are you guys going to change the structure of how you facilitate trading in swaps, or are you going to be largely the same design and architecture after that?
In general, as I mentioned, THORChain is a core technology in the Rango, and for multiple reasons. And we always like to add all the features that THORChain brings to the users because they are very fundamental. For example, we have added Terra very soon, as soon as possible when THORChain enabled them. We are working on synthetics as well, and we are looking forward for the aggregator as well. We currently are mostly busy with the IDO stuff, but after that we are revamping our routing. Something like routing version 2 will be released that support this sort of aggregation contracts, which makes the transactions much easier for the users. So I can say that that's of the highest priority in Rango, to integrate all these aggregator features from services such as THORChain, Seabridge, or Multichain or into Rango. And I believe that's the most important UX improvement that we will do in near future.
Is there anything that the THORChain DEX doesn't have that you wish it had that would make your job easier?
I believe supporting more blockchains and more technologies, for example, the IBC that you're working already on, is a great thing. And we are always looking forward to these expansions of THORChain, because THORChain in general is much easier compared to lots of bridges or custodial services, or less decentralized, I can say, services. So in general, expanding THORChain into more blockchains is something that I personally like to see, and I personally like to use in Rango, because that makes the user's life much easier, specifically because of the aggregator contract. When you hit a new blockchain using the new blockchain capability and the aggregator contract, there will be a very huge enhancement on user experience, I believe. So that's the most important thing that I'm missing in THORChain right now, the number of chains that are supported, which will be for sure fixed in the future.
Cool. Good answers.
Thank you.
Cool. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come up on stage and ask some questions for Rango Exchange or swap, perhaps? Just kidding. Hey, what's up, Impossible Hunter?
Then may I ask a question myself? There's no.
Oh yeah, sorry, go for it.
Yeah, sure, no problem at all. I believe one thing that we are not maybe doing very well is that not many people on THORChain ecosystem know us. To be honest, we are very much popular on Terra ecosystem. Lots of people use us, and we are also popular in Harmony or other places. But THORChain is somehow our home. Our starting point is we are not very much popular in there. Or I don't see that much traffic of THORChain in our system. So what's missing Rango that maybe is preventing users in THORChain to use us as the primary interface? How can we improve it? I don't know if you can somehow elaborate on that or that.
What do you think, Eridanus?
That's a good question. I think in some ways it's almost good that Rango isn't like a THORChain focused DEX. your exchange, your aggregator is trying to go across every blockchain, every asset to any asset. So almost like it's a good thing that you're seeing the love from Terra and Harmony and these other L1s. I mean, if you look at exchanges like THORSwap, they have on their homepage like stats about THORChain volume, number of nodes, and Incentive Pendulum, and it's very THORChain focused. All the branding is THORChain focused, but Rango is trying to be a lot, way more generic and in some ways, I almost think it's a good thing because your upside potential in these different communities is larger. You could almost say that other THORChain focused dexes have their upside is right now limited because their most of their love is coming from THORChain community itself, and the mission of THORChain is always to be this anonymous backend where people aren't really even aware that you're using THORChain, and I think that's the future we're heading towards. And I think Rango Exchange is a perfect example of a DEX that's pushing that vision forward. Where, I mean, that you're using THORChain because you show it in the route, but other than that, it's like you might not even look at that. You might not even be aware. And so, I mean, I guess one thing you could potentially do is just kind of just show volume across THORChain itself, or volume across all of the services that you provide. Maybe show the THORChain pools that are available, or and this applies to any service that you might connect, is showing the different pools available for each service, showing the different activity on each service, and potentially I don't know if you have synthetic assets integrated for THORChain. Is that something you guys have integrated or planning on integrating?
We're working on it. Recently, we've been very busy with the IDO. That's why it has been a bit late. But noted. Thank you for the.
Yeah, cool. And I think the other thing is like potentially providing a way for your users to pool to provide liquidity into the THORChain liquidity pools in order to earn yield. I think you're mostly focusing on swaps right now, and obviously that would be a huge undertaking, but providing a way for your users to earn yield on THORChain could be a way as well.
Yeah, to add on to that, I didn't even know that Rango was built with THORChain in mind from the start until the start of this call. And that's not because, I pay attention to what's going on in the THORChain space. I just didn't know that it was built with THORChain from the very beginning. So I think, thank you guys for coming on here and clearing that up, because, I didn't know that it was so closely entwined with, what's being built on THORChain. I thought it was more of a, aggregator that then started using THORChain for its aggregation, which made complete sense to me. But it is really cool to learn that you guys are like a core part of the THORChain story here with the aggregation. And I think coming on to this kind of stuff, and whenever you guys need community support, the THORChain community will be here for you guys, because you guys are actually doing what we're always just talking about, in using THORChain to power the cross-chain swaps in your guys' backend. Like, fundamentally, that's what THORChain is. It's just the engine to power other infrastructure, to power other services and apps like Rango Exchange and other dexes and things. So now that we know, we'll definitely be here. So thanks for the question.
Sorry, can you hear me? I lost you for seconds.
Yeah. Sorry. When you're on stage, there's like a lot of glitches and stuff. Everyone else can hear us fine, but it might cut out for you sometimes.
Understood. Sorry
for
the
way it is. Twitter sucks.
Understood. Thank you very much for all the hints. Yeah. Maybe that's a problem, because we are not, at least on the user experience or on our own UI, not very much focused on THORChain. But to be honest, as I mentioned, we are a huge fan of THORChain, and the core system is based on THORChain. I would like to expand everywhere that THORChain expands. So that's maybe an obstacle. And for the synthetics and aggregator contract as well, we are working on it, and it's available for synthetics. It's already available for the aggregator as well. We will start working, and we'll have something maybe even in this quarter. So I hope that will be helpful for the community to come to Rango and use us as the main source of swapping, maybe somehow.
And to be clear, I think it's a big strength that you guys are not THORChain branded because the goal isn't in the THORChain ecosystem to have everything be just like the THORtrader.com or something like that to do your cross chain swaps. I think it's great that you guys are doing your own thing. You're your own brand, your own aggregator. You built your own connections, and now you're just tapping it. We're just another liquidity source you guys are tapping into. So, all right, let's get to Impossible Hunter's question. Sorry for the wait there.
Hey, no problem. So yeah, Rango Exchange, I've been using you guys pretty much since the beginning. It's been pretty great. Just wanted to say thanks and props to you guys. A couple just general questions. One, just kind of trying to understand maybe like the dev team, how many people are working on your project. And second question is, I know you guys are kind of unique in this aspect of what you're doing, but who would you say is your biggest competitor right now?
Sorry, guys, we have some problem. Can you hear me?
Yep. You.
Yeah. Sorry about that. My colleague just disconnected and he will join in a second. Sorry about that.
I just invited him back up. Twitter Spaces is just terrible, man. There's just like nonstop problems every week. Well, now they both left.
Oh, jeez.
Should be connecting right now. Or not. It was connecting. There was a spinning wheel. Every time he tries to connect, it just stops.
Oh, man.
Sorry, bear with us here. There we go. Hey, Rango.
Okay, sorry for the problem. I was just waiting for you to accept that, and also my internet got disconnected. I just changed the provider. So would you please ask a question again, because I lost the whole conversation.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I just wanted to say props. I've been using you guys since the beginning, and I really do like your service so far. I just want to get a bit broader range of kind of what you guys are doing, or I mean, more so, how many people are working on your project? And question number 2 is, who do you think is your biggest competitor right now in the space?
Sure. Thanks for the compliment, first of all. And we are glad that you're still happy with the product. And other than that, the team, we started as 3 people like 8 months ago, but right now we are something around 14. We are going to expand to something like 25 to 30 people in next 6 to 7 months, because we have integrated lots of services and we are going to integrate many more. So they need lots of maintenance. They have like version changes, other stuff that needs a lot of development efforts. Sorry, I lost it again. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can still hear you.
Okay. And would you please ask your second question? I just forgot it.
Do you think, who are your biggest competitors right now?
Well, to be honest, there are lots of competitors. Many of them are indirect competitors, such as even you can think of like Uniswap as a competitor, because people can use them directly instead of using it via Rango. But to be more exact or more direct, there are something like Lee Finance, XY Finance, or Rubik Exchange, and other projects that try to do the same thing. They are in some cases similar, but most of them support like Ethereum-based blockchains and not much further than that. The volume or the number of users are much lower, to be honest. So these are the very direct competitors, but in the indirect case, all the bridges or DEXs can somehow be our rivals.
To follow up on that, what do you guys think you do a lot better than all of the other competition? Where do you think Rango really sets itself apart from all the other aggregators and exchanges, and even going all the way to compare to the decentralized exchanges? How do you think Rango stacks up?
Sure. Well, one thing that normally is very important when you start developing a product is the vision that you have. We started with a cross-chain mindset, and we didn't limit ourselves to any specific sort of blockchains. We didn't limit ourselves to Ethereum. We didn't limit to UTXOs. That's a shell sell for other products, similar products, because they are normally limited to a specific sort of blockchain. So when they like to add a new thing, to upgrade their APIs, to like give the service to other products, they will face new problems that we were solving from the first day. That's one thing. The other thing is that normally we are much faster and more efficient in development. That's some proof by history. So we normally have lots of more services, more blockchains, and more stuff to present to the users. That's one thing that we normally are much faster. There are lots of most of them are basically EVM based blockchains. They just integrate MetaMask or Wallet Connect. They just support few popular Ethereum based blockchains, but we have expanded it to UTXOs. We have expanded to Solana. It will be released in a few days or a few weeks from now. We also have Terra and Cosmos blockchains. These are things that can't be normally and easily be integrated in a well-established product without thinking from the first day.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and ask some questions for Rango or Impossible or Eridanus if you have any more? If someone requested.
Yeah, if I could jump back in, actually.
Yep.
So Rango, I haven't had a chance to delve deep into your tokenomics, but maybe just a high level, what will your Rango token be used for? Is it going to be just a typical governance and kind of fee discount, or is there going to be anything else?
Well, for now, the tokenomics includes the normal use cases. As you said, we're using it for governance and fee discount, and also there will be a fee service later. Sorry, can you hear me? We have some conflicts.
Hey, can you mute your mic, please, while Rango speaks?
Okay. And there is also a fee service, which is something unique to us. We like to somehow let the users buy Rango and use it to get fees on all the other blockchains. If they need, that's another use case. And also, as I mentioned, we like to somehow buy back the token and burn it, which creates some sort of demands for the token. But in general, as I mentioned, we are again very much similar to OneInch. We will have also some facilities for getting arbitrages for users and share the stuff with them.
In English.
Sorry, Dr.
Sorry,
Anas.
I kicked that guy off. Sorry, you can keep going.
Okay. And that's the general cases for the tokenomics.
Blakey?
And also, sorry, one thing that we like to mention is that, sorry, because I had some delays. We also may be thinking of NFTs and other stuff which will be somehow related to the token. That's another idea that we're thinking, but there is nothing else for now, so I cannot guarantee that, but that's another stuff. We had a good experience. We had a good campaign. I'm pretty sure maybe you have seen the badge competition. It was a huge success for us because maybe somehow the campaign is related to some earlier questions. You said that how we can educate people. That was an educational campaign first of all, because there were lots of missions, there were lots of actions that users should do to collect different badges and get scores to go higher on the leaderboard for the airdrop. That was the simple idea, but the badges were designed very good and people liked it, so they started using and try to hunt all the badges. That was something that helped users understand how cross-chain works, how they can install Kepler, they can get something from Ethereum to Akash or etc. That was something that was very good. We like to repeat the same experience with NFTs maybe, so the tokens can be somehow be used as a play-to-earn model.
Blakey?
Yep. Hey, can you guys hear me?
What's up, man?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, just a quick question. Just from a security standpoint, I would imagine there's some additional kind of vulnerabilities you guys are subject to, just supporting, various, multi-chains. Just wondering if that's true, I guess, and, how do you get comfortable with that, that additional risk there?
Sure. First of all, our current version does not have any sort of smart contracts or liquidity of our own. So we are not subject of or target of lots of attacks because there is no liquidity here or there is no smart contracts to be hacked. We fully rely on other smart contracts of, for example, THORChain or other services. So we don't pose any sort of extra risks compared to them. We are just you can think of us like the front end of these solutions. For example, we do the exact same thing that, for example, Seabridge UI does. We don't do anything other than that, but in future we will have our own smart contracts, maybe in 1 or 2 months. And those smart contracts again do not own any sort of liquidities, but there will be lots of interactions between these contracts and other contracts. So we will have lots of security audits and other measurements that is required before releasing. But generally, up until now, there was not much of security risks because we didn't own anything of our own.
Got it. Thanks. And sorry if this is a basic question, but is that kind of the case for aggregators in general? Just because there's no kind of liquidity pools there that could get hacked, I guess?
In some cases, yes, but if you have smart contracts, that's not the case because, for example, Finance was hacked very recently. They are a similar product and they have the same similar smart contract as we are going to have. In that case, the problem was that they didn't have a whitelist of trusted smart contracts to be called with their own smart contracts. So the hacker just used it to get access to all infinite approved wallets by that contract and drain the money. So in general, there are security risks if you have the smart contract. But in our case, as we don't still have it, we are not subject of those security risks. But if we have it, we will be, and the audit is the only way.
Gotcha. And one more, maybe just kind of taking the security question from a different angle. If you're a single chain DEX thinking about kind of integrating with THORChain or kind of going the multi-chain direction, what concerns might you have if you're kind of putting on that hat, if you're thinking about it from that standpoint?
So would you elaborate more?
Just curious. So if you're thinking like you're just a single chain DEX today, and you're thinking about kind of opening up to more of a multi-chain support, what kind of common kind of concerns do you think there would be just from the community? I don't know if there's security concerns or kind of anything else, but just curious, how you might think about that if you're obviously not coming from Rango's standpoint because you're already doing this, but if you're just a single chain DEX today, thinking about moving in that direction, just curious if you have any thoughts on what hesitations there might be from the community.
Just to make sure that I understood well, you say if a user likes to use Rango or a multi-chain solution, what are the concerns?
Sorry, I guess I'm not asking this question very well. If you're actually a DEX operator today, right, like a Uniswap or Sushi or something, and you wanted to kind of open up to more of a multi-chain support, right, where so users can use that DEX to swap, across chains. Do you think there are specific issues that or kind of hesitations, right? Where they might, do you see where I'm going?
Yeah, I understood. Yeah. Sorry for the misunderstanding. Yeah, well, when you're Uniswap, as an example, there are lots of facilities. You are on-chain, you are inside Ethereum blockchain, for example. There is a single block that handles your transaction. Everything is done or rolled back easily. But when you like to go cross-chain, lots of new problems come up. You need some sort of connections between these blockchains. You need to make it trustless, permissionless, make it decentralized, other stuff, or use a service that has these characteristics, such as THORChain. But the problem is that from the security point, it's very much complex. And it's an obstacle maybe for lots of these services to go that way. Other than that, the user experience is very much different in Uniswap right now. You just sign it and everything happens inside the blockchain. But if you go further, there are lots of complexities. If the money stays in between, what happens? There is no track of what's going on outside of the blockchains. There may be like Oracle problems, other stuff. And it's also prone to lots of new types of attacks. That's a problem that both from the standpoint of Uniswap and the users comes to their mind. First of all, I believe. I hope I have answered the question correctly.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
To add on to that a little bit, Eridanus is on the call here. He does a lot with getting aggregators up and running on new networks. And a lot of the work that Nine Realms does is around that as well. So if there are single chain dexes out there right now that are trying to become multi-chain, and they want the tools, they need the expertise in order to really put themselves into the multi-chain world, then this is the right place to be, and Eridanus is the right person to talk to, because that's what Nine Realms has been doing, is developing the tools to making the switch from single chain to multi-chain really easy through developing better wallet flows with Exchange.js, and just building out the aggregator on THORChain, and making sure THORChain is in the right spot to be the multi-chain DEX aggregator of aggregators.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the great points. I agree with that totally.
For sure. Thanks for having me up. Looking forward to and thanks for hosting this space. This has been interesting. Looking forward to a multi-chain future where this where the user experience is improved, because I agree today it's there's still a lot of room for improvement, but thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question.
You're welcome, and thank you for the good questions.
Hey, SN5.
Hey, hi guys. So I might ask the question that kills maybe there. So I was just wondering, you guys were speaking earlier about direct competition, but I didn't hear anything about THORSwap and their aggregator coming. So I was wondering, because like both projects are kind of doing similar stuff at different stage. THORSwap has tokens, not the aggregator yet. They have LP. Now we're talking about maybe would Rango think about adding the LP? So what I see there is, it's pretty much the same goals getting worked on at different stages. But I was just wondering, is there any like partnership going on between you guys? How do you see, I guess that's one competition that we didn't talk about earlier. How do you see your what's your view on that? And I was referring as to how you were speaking earlier about the THORChain community maybe not using as much Rango. What I would suppose is that they use THORSwap first, and then whatever they can't do there, then they would go on Rango. Just hypothesis, but yeah, just wondering, like, what's your view on your relation regarding THORSwap, or are there like any partnership or any work being done by both teams together, or not at all?
Sure, that's a great question. To be honest, there is not any sort of partnership between us. We are just two different products on the same ecosystem, but there is a fundamental difference between us, which I believe that we are not direct competitors because of that fundamental difference. The first thing is that THORSwap is THORChain, very THORChain centric interface. The THORChain advanced users can use it for like adding liquidities, see the stats and other stuff. But Rango in general is just mostly focused on the swapping functionality. So what I believe is different is that if you are a very expert THORChain ecosystem user, THORSwap is the place for you to go. And if you like to do a very complex swap, you should use Rango. That's two different use cases that I see. So the direct competitors that I mentioned are exactly doing the same thing as Rango does, but mostly they are in Ethereum ecosystem. They are aggregating other services. Rango is somehow both based on THORChain and also not, because we also integrate other services. We try to find the best route. It may not be THORChain in some cases, but mostly it is THORChain if THORChain has a route for that. So in general, I see us as like apple and orange comparison. We are somehow similar, but not fundamentally. We are two different products.
Cool, thanks. I can't wait, by the way, to see like the Polkadot ecosystem being added on any THORChain or Rango. Like, there's just a pain in the ass right now to get to use it index way with Thanks for your answer, guys.
Sure, you're welcome. For the Polkadot, as I mentioned, we were likely to add it in this quarter, but we preferred, because we have already 40 different blockchains, we prefer to first of all focus on improving the user experience of these 40 blockchains, and then move onto Polkadot ecosystem as well. We will do it in next quarter. It would be great if THORChain supports that until then, so we will for sure use THORChain as some sort of bridge to that ecosystem, but if not, we will still find something else for now and later integrate THORChain when it's ready for the Polkadot.
Cool, Rango. I want to thank you guys so much for coming up on here. This is a great time. We should do these things more often. Whenever you guys want to, do some spaces or whatever, we'd love to, hear more about Rango Exchange and your guys' viewpoints, and really welcome you guys as part of the community, because this is, you guys are part of the multi-chain community, and you see the multi-chain vision and where things are going in the future, and you guys are going to be a big part of that, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. That's the same for us. We are super happy to be here and see the community. I believe that was the first time, at least for me, to be here, and I'm super glad to also understand your points, answer the questions if I can, and also I'm always available for any sort of helps. Also, we have a group with NineRealm. In some cases, we try to give some sort of feedbacks for the documentation and other stuff to help the community indirectly. We have not been very seen on the stage, but in general, we had always tried to improve THORChain in an indirect way by providing some sort of feedbacks, using the service, and integrating all the features that's possible. And we are very happy to do that in future as well.
Amazing. Thanks so much. This was great.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Same goes for us, man. Anything NineRealms can do, or THORChain can do to support, we're always here for you too.
Thank you. Yeah, that's cool. And thank you very much for everything. If there is no other questions, I think that's the end of the call.
Yeah, well, let's wrap it up. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Hopefully we'll do these more often.
Sure.
If you guys liked it, leave some feedback. Or if you didn't like it, leave some feedback. I'd love to hear what people's thoughts are on these, spaces and AMAs and stuff.
Absolutely.
That was amazing for me, to be honest, at least. And also I like to hear other people's feedback, posts on the space, posts on the ecosystem, and all the other stuff that can help us improve the quality of the whole protocol.
All right. Peace, guys. See you later.
Thank you. Bye. See you soon. Bye.